My name is Dirk van Turenhout. I'm the curator of anthropology at the Houston Museum of Natural Science. And today we're going to be visiting the exhibit Secrets of the Silk Road, where we will see some really ancient mummies predating the Silk Road and then learn more about the actual Silk Road and the history behind it. The term Silk Road is a label that was generated by modern researchers to apply to a phenomenon in which people, ideas, and trade goods moved across the landscape. And with landscape, I mean thousands of miles going from a city called Xi'an, famous for its terracotta warriors, all the way to the Mediterranean. So there's a lot of territory to cover there and a lot of really difficult terrain to conquer. Deserts, mountains, and sometimes bad guys. Roughly speaking, in the middle of that route, we have the Tarim Basin. And we have some of the highest mountain ranges in the world, much higher than what we have in the United States, period, with mountain passes that really channel people through and force you to go through a limited number of passageways, and then you hit a desert. You can choose to go through the desert and then pretty much commit suicide. So people then eventually learn the hard way and start walking around the northern edge or the southern edge of that desert to hook up with the caravans that took the other route on the other end of the desert and continue through another mountain pass further west or further east. So in this particular case, what we're looking at is, geographically speaking, a smaller portion of the larger 4,600 miles worth of road. It's a large territory though, but at its center, the desert, and the desert is what gave us the mummies. In this case, we have the bones and the tissue and the clothing. It's the full package, if you want, beautifully, incredibly, wonderfully preserved. Ultimately, what an archaeologist wants to do, or anybody who studies history wants to do, is to figure out what people were doing at one point in time. So you are looking at an attempt, in this case, to reconstruct life that existed 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, up and down the Silk Road. And the mummies help, because if you only have a pot and a spear and maybe a tomb, but nobody in it, that's half the story. If you have somebody buried in there, all of a sudden, it becomes very interesting. The significance of the age of the mummies is that you have some mummies that are 2,000 years BC, so 4,000 years old, some that are 1,000 BC, so 3,000 years old. You have a selection, you have a continuation, you have a sequence where you can test, reanalyze, and observe, is there any change in the physical characteristics of the people who were buried? And the answer is yes. Is there a change in the clothing over time? The answer is yes. So it's not just having a very old mummy or a very recent mummy, it's the whole range of mummies that have been found up and down the Silk Road, in that part of the Silk Road. That is what makes it so cool. No matter how well this video is made and how great the presentations were, seeing it in person and the real things, which is what they are, doesn't compare to what you can see online. So seeing it in person and up close, we can talk about the details. We can talk about the incredibly beautiful preservation of this lady and her eyelashes and the baby as well. But being close enough, I know and have heard of people who came to visit in the previous venue who had incredible reactions, emotional reactions, by coming truly face to face with somebody who lived that long ago.